listening to a GWP weather update. It's Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, and I'm your host, Jacob Fulmer. And in today's weather update, we're going to be looking at some severe weather that is going on across the country, including a fire risk across the state of Missouri for tomorrow, as well as the chance for some wintry weather as we go into the weekend with a really big temperature change that's going to take place right before that happens Thursday night. So a lot to get to today. So again, this is just kind of a special report since there's quite a bit going on as we go through the rest of this week in the weather department. So we wanted to go ahead and bring you that update here. First, we're going to look at the national picture of what we have going on. Across the pink here, we've got those red flag warnings. The ones here across the state of Missouri, those actually go for tomorrow. So the fire risk in the state of Missouri is mainly going to be for your Thursday. We also have those high wind warnings. Of course, the strong gusty winds that we're going to have is what's going to fuel that fire threat, in addition to the low relative humidity that is forecasted. So we've got those high wind warnings across Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. That's where we could see the strongest of the winds gusting over 60 miles per hour at times could lead to some power outages. And of course, that's where the highest risk for that spread of wildfires is going to be taking place. We could also be dealing with some tree damage as well. Not a whole lot, but a little bit of damage is possible out of that. We've got some wind advisories across this tan area. We've got winter storm warnings across this kind of that lighter shade of pink. That's kind of the darker pink where we have those red flag warnings. But this is where we've got winter storm warnings in effect across Nebraska, Wyoming. So that's where we're dealing with some mountain snow, and then also some snow in the lower elevations across the northern plains. We got winter storm warnings in North Dakota and Minnesota, Wisconsin and Michigan, where we could be looking at some of that heavier snow. Minneapolis or just points south of there under that winter weather advisory. And then we even do have a blizzard warning that is in effect here across South Dakota and then into parts of Minnesota as well, where we could be looking at blizzard conditions for 3 hours or more. You have to have 35-mile-per-hour winds, a quarter-mile visibility or less, and you have to have both of those conditions present for 3 hours. Doesn't have to be actively snowing in order to get a blizzard, but blizzard conditions will be possible if you will be traveling further towards the north. And then a little bit of winter weather has made its way into New York and Massachusetts as well. So we've got winter weather advisories there, some additional wind concerns here, and then additional winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories across California and also across Oregon and Idaho. We've got some of those winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings also in effect across the state of Alaska as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We look at those current weather alerts here. It looks like we'll go ahead and we'll update those. So we just got a new update in. The blizzard warning across northeastern Minnesota just expired in the most recent update. We do still have a blizzard warning across southern Minnesota. So just a little bit of a change that just took place. Again, here in the state of Missouri, our big concern is those red flag warnings that are in effect. Relative humidity is going to be anywhere from 20 to 30%, so very low, limited amount of moisture. And then we will have a strong southwesterly to westerly wind that will be taking place tomorrow, particularly in the afternoon and evening. And we'll also have those temperatures on the warmer side as well. So with all of these factors, we will have a fire risk as we go into tomorrow. So that, of course, was from the National Weather Service in Kansas City, putting out those different charts showing you the relative humidity and wind and how that's going to fuel that fire concerns. That from, again, as we mentioned, the National Weather Service in KC and Pleasant Hill. So that does leave us to a critical fire risk across New Mexico through Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado, and then also just to our north. Now, today, we are not under that fire weather risk issued by the SPC. But if we go to Thursday's fire weather outlook, your day 2 fire weather outlook, you'll notice that there is that critical risk across Texas and Oklahoma and a small portion of southwestern Missouri. Southwestern Missouri is also under that elevated fire risk from Joplin to Nevada. So anywhere between Joplin and Nevada, all the way up to Nevada, there is an elevated fire risk. So that is something that we're concerned about. Here across Columbia, we're currently not under the fire weather risk, but the same conditions will be out there, just not as strong as what we'll see across Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. Then we're going to see a cold front that's going to move through tomorrow night. That's going to lower the temperature, the winds will start to calm down a little bit as well. Humidity values will also go up just a slight bit as we go into Friday. And so that means that the fire weather risk will go down significantly after tomorrow. But tomorrow, the fire threat does increase, and that's where we're going to have the worst of our fire potential as we go into tomorrow. Going back here to that radar, of course, we've got some of the heavier snow right now across southwest of Minneapolis. We've got some very heavy snowfall across this region right now with that storm system. Again, some of this is rain, some of this is snow across New York, and then also some precipitation out west, again, in those higher elevations, leading to some snow in the mountains, and then again, rain in the lower elevations. Looking at power outages right now, California's got the most customers without power, 58,000 total. We've got about 108,000 customers. That means that about a third of a million Americans are currently without power at this point in time. So about 300,000 people here across the U.S. without power. So now we'll go ahead and we'll look kind of at the overall forecast of what we're expecting going into tomorrow, according to the 18Z run from today up the GFS. This is from Tropical Tidbits, so the afternoon run showing us that snowfall. So this is actually a secondary wave that's going to bring some snow across Nebraska and Iowa. So you'll notice this is not the same storm that's bringing the blizzard conditions in the state of Minnesota. That storm system moves out tonight, and then as we go into Thursday and Friday, that's when we'll have this additional snow further to the south here. And then again, strong winds. And then as we go into Friday, the winds will calm down. We will get a front that will move through, a cold front. Temperatures will drop off significantly on Friday. And then Friday night into Saturday morning, there is the possibility for some winter weather, or it could be rain, wintry mix, could be a rain-snow mix across the state of Kansas and Missouri. Now, there's a few important things to highlight about this. One, because the relative humidity is going to be so low on Thursday, it's going to take a lot of moisture in order to saturate the atmosphere, which means a lot of this is not going to reach the ground. The other thing is, if it does reach the ground, because temperatures have been at record highs, or near record highs at least, we've been in the 60s and 70s over the last couple of days across the state of Missouri. And so what that means is any of this that falls is likely not going to stick to the ground. Yes, the surface temperatures will be at, or maybe even just a little bit below freezing, but because the ground temperature will still be above freezing, not a whole lot of this is going to accumulate, especially on the roads. The roads are not going to see a whole lot of accumulation, maybe a little bit of some slushy spots, but very unlikely that we'll have any travel impacts out of this storm system. But there is a chance for some snow as we go into Saturday, and so we really want to highlight that as something we need to watch. But again, not a whole lot in the way of accumulation is expected out of that. In fact, if we kind of zoom in on that, so again, a lot of this is going to be staying to our north, a little bit of that rain snow mix across the state of Kansas and as well as into Missouri. So if we were to see any rainfall out of this, it would probably be not even really measurable. And then again, as far as snowfall goes, maybe a dusting on the higher elevations. The roads likely not going to see anything. So the storm system continues to move through, and so something else that we're going to be watching, so we do have that snowfall potential Friday night into Saturday morning. Something else that we are watching is a severe weather threat that's going to be developing across Illinois and Indiana as we go through the daytime hours tomorrow. And so there is a slight tornado, wind, and hail risk across this area. So if you're going to be traveling across the Ohio Valley, just be mindful of that severe thunderstorm risk as we go into the day on Thursday. Overall, though, temperatures staying pretty warm tomorrow, so that's what's going to be fueling the severe weather threat. And then again, fire conditions. So we have fire risk across the center of the country, and then across the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, we have severe weather, and then we have snow in Minnesota and the Northeast. That's kind of what our setup is going to be as we go into tomorrow. Then that cold front moves in, and temperatures will drop 5 to 10 degrees below average. High temperatures this weekend will likely only be into the 30s, and then we'll see a bit of a warm up once again as we go into the early and middle part of next week. Well, that's it for today on your GWP weather update.